The information that I am about to relay to you is the most grave that I have ever reported in my 21 years on air. It is so Armageddon in nature that I find it hard to believe this is actually happening in the year 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a critical time, probably one of the most critical times in all of human history and development.
And we will beat you harder than you've ever been beaten before. First, not surprisingly, is that we'll be highly lethal. Very highly lethal, unlike anything our army has experienced.
From any angle you look at, we are now officially at war with Russia. The United States, hijacked by globalist forces, has openly in the last week declared de facto war against Russia.
Why haven't we sent a message yet to Putin?
We're sending a message.
The United States military will stop you, and we will beat you harder than you've ever been beaten before.
Russia's hacked into a lot of things. China's hacked into a lot of things. Russia even hacked into the Democratic National Committee. We will be ready with serious political, economic, and military responses.
The message will be sent at he'll know it. And it'll be at the time of our choosing and under the circumstances that have the greatest impact.
Right now, Senator, for us to control all of the airspace in Syria would require us to go to war against Syria and Russia.
I think it would be great if we got along with Russia because we could fight ISIS together, as an example.
We could slide into nuclear war very quickly from her declared policy in Syria. So I won't sleep well at night if Donald Trump is elected, but I sure won't sleep well at night if Hillary Clinton is elected.
Future high-end war between nation states or great powers, very highly lethal, unlike anything our army has experienced, at least since World War II.
So a message is going to be sent. Will the public know it?
I hope not.
Will the public know it?
I hope not.
We're going to get to the de facto declaration of war and the preparations for physical war, and what the head of the army says will have as high a casualty level as World War II in a moment. But first, the background that's undisputed. Russia only has 2 military bases outside of its country. It's not expansionist. It's fighting radical Islam around the world and should be an ally of the United States. And many of our top generals and admirals and others have been on record saying that fact. The threat is radical Islam and China, not Russia.
I think it would be great if we got along with Russia because we could fight ISIS together, as an example.
The reason the globalists are so upset at Trump is they know he's being advised by the former head of Defense Intelligence, General Flynn, who exposed the fact that Obama and Hillary were expanding ISIS and Al-Qaeda worldwide 3 years ago.
You are basically saying that even in government at the time, you knew those groups were around, you saw this analysis,
Sure.
and you were arguing against it, but who wasn't listening?
I think the administration.
The administration turned a blind eye to your analysis.
I don't know if they turned a blind eye. I think it was a decision. I think it was a willful decision.
A willful decision to go support an insurgency that had Salafists, Al-Qaeda, and
a
Muslim
willful
Brotherhood.
decision to do what they're doing.
The multinational corporations that brag at the Davos Forum that they've hijacked Europe and the United States and many other Western countries are a multinational outside force, basically taking over our nations and colonizing us with their world government system. So they need to have an outside threat to fool nationalists to give up their sovereignty to globalism in the name of protecting nationalism. That's why when the UK pulls out of the unelected dictatorial EU, mainstream media claims the Russians are behind it. That's why when Donald Trump and myself and others call for restoring our borders and doing better trade deals and not ceding our authority to the TPP, they claim we're Russian agents. Because Russia itself is pulling out of the New World Order. The UK is doing it, and so are we. So if you're a foreign group taking a country over, what do? You start pointing fingers at the patriots internally who are trying to save the country and claim they're foreign Ruski agents. By midsummer, we had seen WikiLeaks, DC Leaks, and other organizations dump hundreds of thousands of pages of hacked emails on the web showing the organized crime operation going on between the Democrats, the mainstream media, and the foreign banks that literally own and control them. So to divert the public from the crimes they'd committed, they doubled down and said, see, the Russians are involved in taking over our elections and manipulating things, but they showed no evidence. By late August, Hillary Clinton was 10 to 15 points in national polls behind Donald Trump. They were panicking. I began to see rumblings from the UN and the EU that they were going to send 10 times the number of observers they normally would to oversee our elections. That's why I went on air and said we need to look at the attempt by Hillary to steal this election. She stole the nomination from Bernie Sanders. The sky's the limit. Obama came out 2 weeks later and basically said I was crazy. Election fraud didn't exist. Then, 2 weeks after that, they announced that they were going to federalize the elections to keep them safe from right-wingers and the Russians. Then, on September 1st, Democratic Party nominee goes on national television and says that if we think Russia has launched any type of cyber attack on the U.S., that we'll launch a cyber attack on them and maybe even use physical military force.
You've seen reports. Russia's hacked into a lot of things. China's hacked into a lot of things. Russia even hacked into the Democratic National Committee. Maybe even some state election systems. So we've got to step up our game. Make sure we are well defended and able to take the fight to those who go after us. As president, I will make it clear that the United States will treat cyber attacks just like any other attack. We will be ready with serious political, economic, and military responses.
On cue for the next month, the leading story every night is that Russia is taking over the elections, that Russia has spies everywhere, and that Donald Trump works for them. Then, on October 7th, the director of national intelligence, getting his information from the CIA, comes out and says, we know it's the Russians. They have cyber attacked us officially, but gave no evidence. Then a week later, Vice President Joe Biden, in mafioso style, goes on Meet the Press and tells Russia, we're going to send you a message with a massive cyber attack. We've got incredible capabilities. We're going to show you.
Why haven't we sent a message yet to Putin?
We're sending a message. We have the capacity to do it, and the message
He'll
we
know
sent,
it?
he'll know it, and it'll be at the time of our choosing, and under the circumstances that have the greatest impact. The capacity to fundamentally alter the election is not what people think, and I tell you what, to the extent that they do, we will be proportional in what we do, and.
So a message is going to be sent. Will the public know it?
I hope not.
Will the public know it?
I hope not.
And this is where the critical, bureaucratic declaration of war outside of Congress's authority comes in. Because we have the Director of National Intelligence, we have the intelligence agency heads, we have Mrs. Clinton, we have Joe Biden, we have Obama meeting with top generals just 2 days ago talking about war with Russia in preparation and saying their new doctrine is, if you cyber attack us, we will cyber attack you and or both hit you with a military response, in Hillary Clinton's own words. And guess what? That's the new NATO doctrine they announced a month ago, that they may hit Russia first, or if any cyber attacks, any hacking of any type come from the massive country of Russia, that they will take that as an act of war. From any angle you look at, we are now officially at war with Russia, and this is surpassing anything that ever happened in the Cold War, according to even mainline analysts. And we have proxy wars on the border of Russia in Ukraine and in Russia's backyard in Syria. And we have top generals in Congress, like the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Dunford, saying, look, you're asking me to put up a no-fly zone and shoot down Russian aircraft. They're going to attack us back. That is an act of war.
Right now, Senator, for us to control all of the airspace in Syria would require us to go to war against Syria and Russia.
In summation, why is all of this happening? Well, about a week ago, General Milley, the head of the Army, explained why. If you try to have the Brexit, or if Russia tries to pull out of the New World Order, or if patriots worldwide support the collapse of the EU because it's unelected, our military, working for the globalist, will hit you harder than you've ever been hit before. That's the message. And Russia is being scapegoated for the unraveling of the New World Order and world government.
The United States military, despite all our challenges, despite our op-tempo, despite everything we've been doing, will stop you and we will beat you harder than you've ever been beaten before. Make no mistake about that. First, not surprisingly, is that will be highly lethal. Very highly lethal, unlike anything our Army has experienced, at least since World War II.
The world is in global turmoil. Major banks are going under on a routine basis. The biggest bank in Germany, Deutsche Bank, is teetering on the edge of collapse and will make Lehman Brothers look tame in comparison. And historically, when major collapses begin to happen, countries and empires tend to start wars as a political distraction so they can blame the international financial crises on the war itself and not on their own failed policies. And of course, they want to influence the election here. Every globalist publication, from the Washington Post to the Financial Times of London to The Economist, admits that with Brexit pulling out of the euro and with Russia pulling out of globalism, what's happening here with nationalism and Trump, they're on their last legs and they've got to prop Hillary up. She is their Stalingrad. She is their Waterloo. If she falls there, they believe in their own words, their whole system will completely unravel. Well, I got news for them. It's already unraveling. But they believe that if they can trick Russia into a physical war or cyber attack Russia and get Russia to respond back, they can then pull false flags during the election and use that as an excuse to blame Russia for any election problems. Then Homeland Security has to come in to federalize it further to protect the vote. The good news is, across the political spectrum, the intelligentsia is really waking up to the fact that we have a very dangerous criminal group in control of our country that wants to stay in control and who might even start a nuclear war to do so. And that's why the head of the Green Party and others have come out and said that Hillary Clinton is much more dangerous than Donald Trump because she says that she wants a war with Russia, she wants a war with Iran and others.
Under Hillary Clinton, we could slide into nuclear war very quickly from her declared policy in Syria. So I won't sleep well at night if Donald Trump is elected, but I sure won't sleep well at night if Hillary Clinton is elected.
The ball is now in your court. History is repeating itself in a very, very dangerous fashion. The criminal elements that have hijacked our country are trying to start physical wars with Russia and others. They're opening our borders up, bringing in jihadis here to destabilize things as well. They're taking over our election processes to, quote, protect it from the Russians, even as they announce they're going to launch a massive cyber attack against Russia in retaliation for something they can't even prove Russia did. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a critical time, probably one of the most critical times in all of human history and development. A state of war between the United States and Russia now exists. This is clearly to disrupt our elections. But did you hear what I just said? We are in a state of war with the Russians right now. A state of war currently exists. It has been declared. It has been announced, not legally via Congress. But that power has been transferred to the permanent bureaucracy, to the Cyber Command, the Joint Command, Northcom, CENTCOM, the whole 9 yards. And now they're announcing that they're moving forward. The physical troops, the missiles, they're moving up to the borders with Russia. Proxy jihad armies have been brought into Europe by the millions and the hundreds of thousands here. 80% of them are military-age men, even according to Interpol. They're sleeper cells in case the states, counties, and cities somehow get back control of the hijacked federal government. They will then activate the sleeper cells as a destabilization campaign, as well as the communist cells and the Black Lives Matter cells that have been given billions of dollars the last few years and have been prepared to shoot and kill police and burn down cities. Ladies and gentlemen, we are completely surrounded. We are completely infiltrated. But to quote a famous general from the Korean War, good, we can attack in all directions. We have the moral high ground. We have the facts on our side. We have a lot of people in the government, in the military, and the security apparatus that know exactly what's happening because that's their job. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the headlines I'm sitting here reading during the break, and it's surreal because I talk about it so much, and then the clock keeps ticking towards midnight, and the average American isn't even aware or concerned. Our military is, people that are informed are concerned, but here are the headlines. Reuters, Obama to weigh Syrian military options today on whether to start striking Syria, which Russia will say is an act of war. Russians warned nuclear war is imminent. This is mainstream newspapers I'm reading. Locate your nearest bunker. I mean, that's Reuters. These are real headlines I'm here reading to you. And remember 6 months ago, it was all funny when I was telling you this. This was in the Russian newspapers. And Russia, I guess, doesn't exist or something when I read out of the Moscow Times for the average trendy. But this is serious. There's like an insanity in the air, it seems like. I mean, you've got Podesta with emails about wet work. You've got all this other craziness going on. You've got this obsession with clowns and clown attacks. I mean, have we woken up in an insane asylum?
Well, we're in wag the dog territory. This is war as a pretext for stealing this election. And you're right, the American people seem to be completely oblivious that we're likely to go to war in a conflict in which I can't find any inherent interest of ours, nor can I find friends on either side. I mean, Assad is financing Hezbollah. He's backed up by the Russians. On the other side, you have ISIS, backed up by the Saudis. I think they proved on 9/11 that they're not friends of ours. We don't have any friends. This is really about it's about different sects of Islam. It's about Wahhabism, really. That we would spend a single dollar here or a single American life. It's astounding.
How would you sum up, Roger Stone, the age and the world we live in right now?
Dangerous. Because the globalists will do anything, including starting a world war, if that's what it takes to retain power.
Everyone is concerned, and rightfully so, about the U.S. election, especially when we look at this CNN story saying that Russia and the U.S. are moving past the Cold War to an unpredictable confrontation. Now, as you heard with the special report from Margaret Howell, talking about how Russia is ordering the children of government workers abroad to be sent back home. They've had massive civil defense drills in Russia. They know what it's like to be attacked. They went through the massive attacks of the Nazis during World War II, so that's within their living memory. Americans don't take this very seriously, but the Russians do. And when you look at CNN coming out and saying that Russia and the U.S. are moving past Cold War, we didn't have a Cold War until we had Obama and Hillary. Hillary and Obama revived the Cold War. They began acting aggressively against Russia. Victoria Nuland talked about how they'd spent billions of dollars, also working with George Soros, to create the situation in Ukraine and in the Crimea. Then we have this situation in Syria. And now they're saying this is an unpredictable confrontation that is building up here. This is going beyond the surrogates that we have there. And of course, who are our surrogates? Our surrogates are al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS. Those are our surrogates. And we've seen this time and again. Now, out of Washington, CNN reports it's not a new Cold War. It's not even a deep chill. It's an outright conflict, they said. U.S.-Russia relations have deteriorated sharply under the people that they love so much, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Okay, they have destroyed Libya. They're destroying Syria. They've set the Middle East on fire. They've given us a new Cold War, and they're going beyond the Cold War. This is a hot war. It is being fought with surrogates. It's also, as we're going to see here, being fought with U.S. troops and Russian troops now getting involved. And the surrogates are there as a beard, but that beard is being removed, folks. They say this is deteriorating sharply amid a barrage of accusations, disagreements, raising the stakes on issues ranging from the country's competing military operations in Syria, disputes over Eastern European independence, and escalating cyber breaches. All three of those things are inventions of the U.S. government. Okay, the military operations in Syria, invention of the U.S. government. The situation that they created in Eastern Europe with Ukraine and Crimea, an invention of the U.S. State Department and the Obama administration, Hillary's State Department. And then this whole thing about cyber breaches that they're now increasingly linking to political and economic sanctions and military strikes in retaliation for imagined cyber breaches. This is the perfect false flag. A situation where they can assert that something has happened that we can't even verify. Perhaps a serious cyber breach has occurred, they can tell us. And then they can tell us they have determined that it's the Russians, and so therefore a strike is justified. And Obama even doubled down yesterday, linking this to the false claims that it's Russia that is interfering in our election. Now, the director of the Kennan Institute at the Wilson Center on the U.S.-Russia confrontations is quoted by CNN as saying, "This is a conflict, there should be no doubt." They go on to say that Moscow has steadfastly denied that it is meddling in the U.S. presidential election. In an interview this week with CNN's Christiane Amanpour, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said it was a baseless accusation. He said it's flattering, of course, to get this kind of attention for a regional power, as President Obama called us some time ago. We have not seen a single fact, a single proof. As a matter of fact, what we see now, as we see the Office of the Director of National Security and Department of Homeland Security coming out, they say, well, we know it's the Russians because it's their motivation. They have an MO to do this, we believe. But why would the Russians dislike, why would the Russians dislike America so much? Well, it's because of what I just said. We have manufactured chaos. We have manufactured conflict. Again, Eastern Europe, Syria, and now they come back and manufacture a conflict with this cyber issues. Former technical head of the NSA saying he doesn't believe it's the Russians. He believes that it's people in the NSA who are concerned about what Hillary Clinton has done to endanger the lives of people with her security breaches. And so there's a lot of people that don't believe that it's the Russians. I don't believe it's the Russians. We don't have any proof, and yet they are escalating this to the point of conflict. This is a very serious situation. We should take this very seriously. We should understand that if we have Hillary Clinton continue this policy of chaos, destruction, and perpetual war for the benefit of her bankers, and these are the people who always benefit from war, folks. A rich man's war, poor man's fight. That's what they said during the Civil War. It's always true. It's how the Rothschilds make their money, and it's how the rest of us die and get poor and see our countries destroyed.